crafty friends, I've got something fun for you today. I have been really feeling the interactive cards lately, and so I'm creating easy shaker cards today. I'll take you through the process of making one, but I also want you to kind of think outside the box of using your florals in a shaker card. A lot of times we're looking for a specific die or a specific thing on our cards, and really we can make this very simply and get lots of exciting sparkle and use out of our florals that we might not have thought about. So we've done one of these in a live stream as well, and I will show you both cards throughout, but we'll stick with mainly the process for this one that is brand new. So I hope that you enjoy that. This is following the release of Altenew's first ever set of sequins. This is the Twinkling Pink, which is my favorite and what we'll be using in this video. So just make sure to stay tuned. You can use anything you have already in your stash, but I just wanted to show you some of those new things so you are aware of them. If you haven't done it yet, hit the like and subscribe, and let me show you how to shake things up.
Let me just start with the supplies. Of course, you can grab anything that you have that's a very large floral. I'm going to be using a large floral stamp called Graceful Gardenias, and then I'm going to use the stencil just to give it some life. We're going to use pretty simple coloring. We're going to stick with some reds and greens, and then I'm going to use for my sequin mix the new Stellar Sequins from Altenew. These are a pink and they're beautiful. Now, I used these same sequins in a recent live stream with a real bold floral, but we're going to do a few things different this time. I'm going to start using my stamp wheel, and I'm going to go ahead and add anti-static powder to the page because I want to do some heat embossing. Heat embossing gives you that subtle metallic look. We're going to use a metallic gold, and it really makes the card extra elegant. I feel like with the sequins and the large florals, that extra little bit of gold just makes everything look so good. So I've anti-static powdered my little piece of paper. Notice I did this on the top plate, so I haven't put this over the sticky mat, and I still have this plate protecting the sticky mat. That's to help not get powder on it. So now that I've got it, I'm putting it down on the sticky mat. It's already powdered, and we can start adding our really large stamping here. Now, you could do the same stamp, you could use both stamps. I like this one that I have here. This gardenia kind of sits in a corner, and so with the stamp wheel, it makes it pretty easy to line it up where it's on each corner. So once you pick it up, you can just rotate the stamp wheel. So I'm going to play with that a little bit just to make sure I've got it the way that I want it and that it's not overlapping in the center. But it's a really nice way to use your stamp wheel, and I kind of wanted to show that in the video, but I also just wanted to show you that even if you've got smaller stamps, just taking up a lot of space is what makes this card so special. So you really want big florals, you want them all the way to the edge, maybe even overlap off the edge like this is doing, so that we can cut that shaker from the middle and it kind of looks like the whole thing is just covered in flowers, and it just really makes a really cool framing look. So I'm going to set this up. I'm going to stamp in clear embossing ink, and then we're going to add some beautiful gold. So I know I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'm using Wow polished gold. And the reason I'm heat embossing is, one, because I love those gold effects. Two, because when you're going to do something like stencil the entire card, it's really nice when you've done your nice defined lines and you know they're not going to smear, they're going to stay beautiful because the heat embossing is like sealing those lines. Look at how beautiful that flower looks. I love that now you can see it. When I'm stamping with clear ink, it's really hard to see what's going on. So I wanted to show you as I put this powder on how the design is going to look. Look at that gorgeous card. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm getting my embossing powder on. I'm going to heat this up. I always flick the back just to get any little extra particles off that aren't where they're supposed to be. I love using coffee filters for this because I can easily just dump this right back into the container and not have a mess. Next, I'm going to heat this up, and heat embossing, you just kind of go around the whole card. Make sure you're not making too much warping, especially since we need to cut a window out of this card. You just want to be cautious about it and continue moving your heat gun. Now, while you have embossing supplies out, go ahead and let's prep for making our sentiment that matches perfectly. So I'm just going to take some ink, spread it on a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to use that same heat embossing that I just did. It's polished gold. Fill in the area, and basically we're just making our own cardstock. It just looks so nice and coordinated when your card has the perfectly matching sentiment to the gold that's already on there. So I'm just creating a page, and I'm going to cut lots of different sentiments out of this, but I'm going to heat up this powder, and it's going to create a beautiful gold piece. So we're going to let both of our heat embossing pieces cool down just a little. You don't want to immediately die cut out of either of the pieces. You need to let them get back to normal room temperature, and that way you can get a nice clean cut and it becomes like cardstock. So see how beautiful this gold is? It's going to make the beautiful hello sentiment that we're going to use. So what makes this card so special is that it is perfectly coordinated with these sequins. So I'm using Frosty Pink, and I'm going to show you how I did the flower. I'm not going to do all of the stenciling, but I'm going to show you what I did. I started with laying down a layer of Frosty Pink, and then I'm going to come back in with an even smaller blending brush, and we're going to add some darkness to the center of the petals. I'm going to continue this way for all of the flowers, but I wanted you to know what I was doing and what colors I was using. So Frosty Pink is the first. Next is Coral Berry, taking a small brush and just going around the center of the flowers so it looks like there's some depth and dimension to these beautiful, beautiful flowers. Okay, and here's what it looks like. Beautiful. Now we'll just fill all the rest of these floral petals in. I'm going to show you what colors I use on the green, and we'll get into making this beautiful shaker card. I almost forgot the little buds. So here's the little buds. Now we're going to use two colors of green. I'm going to fill all the leaves with the sweet leaf, which is the lighter green, and just going around and adding this green to all the leaves. And then I'm going to come back with the darker just green and do about a third of the leaf. So these leaves are a little bit smaller, so you have less room to add lots of that depth, but it's very easy to come in just a small amount with the darker color. Okay, and here's how that looks. So here's all the green. See how it's got the darker and lighter areas? Now let's start making some cuts for our shaker card. This looks so beautiful, and it can be very scary to do the next part. You've got your beautiful artwork here and you're scared to cut it up. I would suggest using a shape die, and this one we're going to use a simple rectangle. Now, to do this, I'm going to be so careful. I have this magnetic mat, but it made it harder to move things around. So I ended up using the grid lines and a T ruler because I'm a little bit, this cut is a big deal and you want to make sure that you've got it where you want it. So I'm going to use lots of things to make sure I've got this even and that my frame looks nice. So a T ruler has two sides to kind of make sure that everything is level and that it's straight, and that helps me a lot. So once I've got it where I want this, and I'm using my grid mat to see, I even grab another T ruler just to see if I can overlap the two and make sure I'm right, because I really want you to take some time making this cut because you're just going to get frustrated if you do this fast and it's not lined up the way you want it to. So I'm checking that it's level on this side as well. I've used my grid mat to look at how far everything is spaced and make sure that is even. But don't be afraid to use a ruler multiple times to get this right. Now, once you have it correct, you need to tape it down in the exact spot. You need to use tape that you can rely on to not pull your embossing or any parts of your design off. This is the purple tape from Altenew, and it is made to remove and go back on. I would suggest making sure that you have some oils from your hands, that you've touched the sticky part, and then it's just sticky enough to hold what you need without trying to grab any extra part of your design. So I usually run this over my fingers, then I stick it down. But this purple tape and the Spellbinders yellow tape are really good at not sticking so much that I need to put a lot of extra pressure. Now that I've got it perfectly on my magnetic mat, that should hold it. You could leave the tape on. I remove the tape for one reason. One, I know that magnet is pretty strong and going to keep my die where it's supposed to. Two, I don't want any impressions into the paper of that tape. So sometimes when you run it through a die cutting machine, you'll get an impression of the tape into your image. And so I prefer to go ahead and remove mine once I've got it on the magnet and everything is lined up. Next step, I've run it through the machine and I'm going to try to keep the pieces together. Why, you say, am I doing this? Because you can still move your pieces. Most of the time in my die cutting machine, I can pull the whole piece out even though it's been cut and keep it together if I'm careful. I'm going to flip to the back and go ahead and start adding adhesive. And I'm going to do this so that my pieces stay perfectly aligned. So I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive to the center part of the design. So just the center part to start because we're going to need some thinner adhesive strips and you don't want to have that adhesive go over where the cut is. So I'm going to grab a smaller amount of thin adhesive, double-sided adhesive, and we're going to go around the outside. You see how that's like 1/4 of an inch? And this is going to go around the outside of the rectangle. Do not cross over where the cut is and keep this very lined up so that it doesn't interfere with the window that we're about to create. But we need this double-sided adhesive to attach some acetate to be the window. So we're getting it all the way around the whole thing. And then we're going to cut out some acetate to create a window. The rectangle die that I used in the center has lots of other dies with it, so I'm just cutting myself a general piece, and then I'm going to use that die cut, and that will make that window larger than our opening. So this is like the second size up from the one that we used in the middle. So I know that's hard to say, but it's the waffle flower rectangle nesting rectangles, and I'll link it in the description for you. So I'm just going to cut this rectangle out. Now to put our pieces together, I'm using a sticky, it's called the Slim Grip Sticky Mat. It's got a little bit of stickiness to it. I'm using just a piece of white A2 and it's slightly smaller, like this card is slightly smaller than an A2. So the reason I did that is because what's going to be stuck to this is going to be our A2 front, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It was just a scrap that I had, so I wanted to use it. So now what I'm going to do is take my whole piece here, still kind of connected. I'm going to remove the adhesive from the middle part and we're going to line everything up so that it fits perfectly. And I love that you can tell where this Altenew adhesive is because it's hard when you're using something clear. It's nice that it has a little print so you can see exactly where I'm removing the adhesive. I'm only removing the adhesive from the middle. And you see how I've kind of got them taped at the side right there? Now I'm going to flip this piece over, use this grid mat to line everything up, and we will have left the sticky middle part down on that piece of white. So I'm using my grid mat. See how it's got a perfect A2 size here? We're lining everything up and we're going to press the middle down. I'm holding the left corner up because that's where that piece of purple tape is. And I'm going to get it laid down and then I'm going to kind of ease it up and remove the piece of purple tape. But this helps you line everything up so much easier. See, we've got our frame. I'm going to remove my piece of purple tape. And ta-da, there it is. So now we've got to make our window. So we're going to use the adhesive that we have on our frame and we're going to create the acetate window. So we should have that piece that we've already die cut that's the right size. I've removed the adhesive strips and now we're sticking down that acetate and we have this perfect window. Look at how beautiful that is. So to make a shaker card, you're going to need some lift to create space to put those shaker pieces. So now we need to come in with our foam tape. So find foam tape that is thin enough to fit on this frame. For me, I'm going to use the 1/4 inch foam tape from Altenew and I'm going to go along the edges. The key to the foam tape is that it's not seen in the actual window part, so it needs to be thin enough that it fits on your frame. And it needs to meet perfectly. So take a small pair of scissors, make sure you trim everything appropriately, but each piece needs to meet so that little sequins don't fall through the cracks. So just make sure as you do that, you're adding them and butting them right up against each other so that you've got a nice tight window. Let me start with what not to do. Don't grab your sequins and pour them in the middle of this window. Let me show you what I did. I did this because I was probably half paying attention, and I also just wanted to see what the sequin size looked like. And then I realized, oh no, that was not right. I need to add these a different way. So I dumped them out and do the correct way. So remember, this is not right. I'm going to dump it out and I'm going to do it the correct way. Even I make mistakes. I always make mistakes, so don't ever think that I'm perfect. So I dumped those out. I grabbed my powder tool, which was the step that I forgot to do. And I'm going to use this powder tool. Highly recommend this one for shaker card windows because the brush is smaller. It's made by Easy, I believe, Easy Success or something like that. I will include it in the list in the description for all the supplies. But this one I use primarily for shaker card windows. I don't use it for a big area because it's such a small brush, but I use it to really help get the adhesive right here along these edges where it doesn't stick, because if you don't do this powder step, you're going to have sequins stuck all to the edge of the adhesive. So even those foam adhesives are supposed to only work on the main edge. There's always a little leftover adhesive that sequins will get stuck to if you don't add the powder and take care of that area. Okay, here's the correct way to do it. Always put your sequins on the background, not inside the window. So I'm going to start adding different sizes to this, and I know that's a little bit hard to see because they're pink, but as I add more, you're going to see how I'm making this pile of sequins. Now, how much do you add? People always ask, how much do you add? Is there a measurement? Well, every shaker card window is different. What I would say is you add the amount that you want to be shaking in there, and also that you know won't be such a tall pile that it doesn't shake well. So I'm just kind of spreading it out, giving myself a good variety of sequins. Okay, so I'm going to take this adhesive off, and yes, it's sticky. You could go ahead and just put it down, but with it being this intense, it might be nice to add just a little bit of glue along that adhesive so you've got some mobility, at least to the bottom edge, and that way you can make sure that you're laying this down and getting it lined up exactly. I also have it on that slim grip sticky mat, and that holds my bottom piece in place so that I can make sure that all of this, you're really looking at your pattern of your cute floral and making sure that it all matches up. And then you got your shaky pieces. Now all we need is the sentiment. And remember how we made that heat embossed gold piece? We're going to die cut this cute little hello out of that. And the sentiment's so small, I have the rest of this gold paper that I can use for another project. So I'm going to keep that in my bin to create more beautiful gold sentiments and things out of. Place the gold hello on a vellum outline, and I used a little bit of glue. Now to place it on the front window, I'm going to use some dot runner. So this is the Altenew dot runner, and I'm just adding it behind the gold. So just little teeny dots, but I don't want to use glue because if you put it on that plastic window surface, you're going to squish the glue out. So just be careful how you adhere this. We're going to add this adorable hello. I'm going to show you how this shakes. I'm going to pop up some final pictures of this and the other card we made in the live stream in case you want to see the stencil only card. But I just had so much fun doing this with you. I'm going to pop back in here and after I show you these close-ups because I feel like you can see the colors and the details so much better in these photos than you can when you're looking on the video screen. So I wanted you to see these up close details. This card is the one that we made in a live stream, and it's the same general idea, but I will link that in the description for you.
Okay, I hope that you enjoyed that video. I had lots of fun making this shaker card with you here on camera. Tell me how you're gonna try shaker cards with your florals. Are you gonna use are you gonna actually cut the flower out? Have you tried using the stencils and then creating the shaker cards over it? I hope that you got lots of ideas for framing these in an interesting way. So have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the like and subscribe. Everything that I used in this video will be linked in the description. I will also link it in the pinned comment. So you'll be able to grab those things if you need them. If you haven't done it lately, make sure you check out what's on my channel. I produce a video every week, and I've got lots of fun, exciting, popular videos out now that you definitely want to catch. So have a great day. Bye.